Well, hi, everybody. I'm Marshall Shepard and your marketing guru. um, Today, we're going to go through some PowerPoint basics and some of the more intermediate sort of stuff. This isn't. This is more of like an overview sort of thing of PowerPoint more than an in-depth instruction. So the first place I want to start out with us is just going over some of the basic tools in the on the home menu, on the home ribbon, as it's called. There's a variety of different things here that you can utilize when building your PowerPoints. You have your paste options over here, your cut, copy, and format. You can also do a new layout from here. If your masters are built as these are, you can select one and apply that master style to it. Same with layout. It's choosing your master style.
Folks, if you have any questions about any of these categories as he goes over them, please stop him and ask him.
Yeah, absolutely. Feel free to interrupt at any point in time. If I'm not making things clear enough, ask a question. I'll clarify it for you. So I want you guys to be as participant as possible. So when formatting your text, if your what do you call it, your theme or your masters don't have the fonts in there correctly, then you can go in and set your own fonts. By selecting it, you can see it. It's kind of hard to see against the gray, but you can see that this text here is selected. You can change the text with the colors here, as many of you may know. Here's where you change your fonts. We typically use Arial because it's the closest thing that we have to Helvetica, which is our brand font. So when doing PowerPoints, please try to use Arial as much as possible. So you can use Arial regular or bold. Here's your font size. When selecting font sizes, try to be consistent. So if all your body copy is one size, try to make that similar throughout your slides, as well as with your titles. So you can see that this title is 36. If I go to another slide, you can see that this title here as well is 36. And they're all the same color. And I put these colors in via a hex code. If you're not familiar with a hex code, it's a 6-digit number that is conformed from the web practices to make matching colors. So that way we can try to stay consistent. So we use these colors throughout our other material. It'll soon be showing up on the website, but yeah. Any questions on setting colors, font colors, or fonts at this point? No?
You can use the dropper to grab colors, like say if we have the flyer or whatever we need to match it with.
Mm-hmm. Yep. So you can use that. We'll select that color, or this color, or that color. All right. So with your fonts too, you have, or not your fonts, but with your text, we have this, where you make your bullets, and in here with your bullets, you have your different styles that you can choose. You can also do custom. And if you want to change your color of your bullets, you can do so from here. So I think that's the case. If I want to change my bullets to the cyan color, do that, hit OK, and you can see that all the bullets changed to cyan. I'm just going to hit undo. So you can change that to numbered with this one. Also the same sort of setup in here if you want to change your colors in there. Also in here we have our line spacing. So line spacing is pretty important. As you can see here, we got enough gap in here that it makes it easier to read each of these bullets. if I were to take that out, you'll see right here, it's the after space that I had in single. See how that closes up. It's a little harder to read. If we want to give it a little bit more space, then we can click up one more, say okay. You can see how it creates more space, but now our text is falling off the page or into our footer. Also, if you have a sentence that you want to change, like in this case, this is a title case. So we have the first letter of each word capitalized. But if we wanted to change that, we wanted it all uppercase, or if we wanted it sentence case, we could just do so by selecting this option here, which is the capital A and the lowercase a, and we can change the case. Do that, you can see it all goes uppercase. Or if we want it sentence case, and make them all lowercase except for the first word, for the first letter of the first word. Also from here, we have control over our justification. So in this case, we have it selected to go align left, or we can set it to go center or right. You can also insert a picture from your home ribbon. So you can do select from file, direct it to an image, say insert, and voila, there it is. And hold shift and resize it to be the size that you want. In this case, we don't want it there. You can also insert shapes from here. So grab a square, you draw it out, create a shape. And then in here we have our format shape palette opens, and we can do no fill, solid fill, gradient fill. We can do a picture or texture. So we can do that, select the color. Any questions so far on that? Everything's pretty groovy so far. You can select the text box if you want to add a text box. You can draw it out and insert your copy. In this case, we're just doing a quick example. We can change the color, change the fonts, change the size.
This can all be also used the same setup in, like, say, Word and Excel and all that for the most part too, right?
Yeah, I think I don't know if
a lot of it's the same. We'll go over that in Word, but he's just showing the extreme basics right now. But he's also going to be showing you some more advanced things as well. But we wanted to make sure that everybody understood the basics, because there are some people that aren't as familiar with this stuff as others. So just bear with him as he moves through this, because he's going to show you some other really cool things as well.
So yeah, it's putting in a text box and some basic text. So in an instance like this where I have all these different icons, it's not necessarily easy to line these up by eye. So when I first put these in, one could have been over here, one over here, things like that. So if you select multiple things, you can do alignment. So this, I have all the icons selected, go to arrange, and I can make them align to center. So that means all the center of each of these objects are now in alignment with each other. Getting a more uniform sort of look to it. Also,
and I think that's more prevalent when you go to the logos page. I think that really showcases that function, right, and the additional things that you can do.
Right.
I think that would have a more profound they'd get to see some exactly how that works. So go ahead and try it on that page.
Yeah, so if I wanted to align everything left, you can see how it aligns left. If we wanted to align everything right, same thing. You can see right now, I have them all centered with each other. Also here, so when we get into this, it's like we have a lot of objects, especially on this one. You can see we have those same icons that were getting on the other page, as well as all these logos. And sometimes things will get in front of each other or behind each other, and it's kind of hard to keep track of everything. So you can open your selection pane. I did that by going to the align, or what is it called? It's called arrange. And down at the bottom, you got your selection pane. Over here in your selection pane, you have all your objects. So if I select an object here, it'll also be correlated here. You can tell by clicking on and off your little eyeball there to hide it. See, that one is that one there. So that's a way to track all your objects and move things around if you need to, if like something's buried behind another object. Another way to do it is to go to reorder objects, and as you can see here, it has everything set up in layers of sorts. It's a visual sort of layer system, right? So say I wanted to get to this bomb guard layer, which is number 8. And I wanted to bring that all the way up to the front. I can just drag that to the front and there. Now it's all the way up to the topmost item. And you can see over here, this picture that moved up to the top, picture 63, is now the Baumgar object. So when dealing with complex animations and that sort of stuff that we have multiple objects, this is an easier way to keep track of things. Now, for the most part, I don't really expect you guys to have to deal with all this that much. I mean, as long as you guys get your content on these slides and send them over to us, we can work through them and doctor them up for you. But if you have something that you want to happen, like say an animation or what have you, then you can put some notes in there and tell us to do that. And I'll get to that in a second. I'll show you how to put those notes in there. Speaking of that stuff, let's kind of move on our ribbon here a little bit. We insert, we have the option to insert multiple types of things. We got header, footers, we got our text boxes, we got some word art, some charts, some smart art, some 3D modules. We also have the ability to insert a table from here. To create a table, you select how many rows and columns you want. So let's say we want three columns and 2 rows. So I'll just select that, and that would insert that table. So now I have three columns, 2 rows table. Tables, you can choose your styles from your style options up here, and I'll change everything for you, or you can do it yourself. Let's go back to this. So if I just put my cursor in here and highlight this whole row until it turns gray, then I can change my shading to a different color. As well, if I select everything, I can also turn on or off my borders. I'd say no borders, and then that would get rid of the border lines. So I can see that there's no lines dividing the different cells. So this would be 1, 2. Right? Does that all make sense so far? I don't expect you guys to be table masters, but if you have a lot of information that you do want to control and have a little bit more control with it, the tables definitely help out in that. And if you guys ever have any questions outside of this, feel free to hit me up, and I'm happy to answer anything that any questions that you can throw my way. Let's see here. Going into the draw, I don't really do much over here. I usually create all my art in Illustrator or Photoshop and then bring it in. I don't really consider this to be a great drawing program. In design, you have the ability to apply a theme or modify a theme. So let's see here. Let's create a new slide. So this one is a blank slide. Let's apply a theme to this. As you can see, it applies that theme to all of our other slides. And it gives us some options over here on the side, which is the design menu. So you can select any one of these and it'll pre-format that for you. If you wanted to change the color, so let's go back to this. Then you have the option. Here it is. So in here, you can modify your colors. You can select a different color palette. You can also select different fonts. Any questions on that so far? It's pretty straightforward, yeah? You're on mute, Alex.
Okay, yeah, sorry about that. This question kind of goes back. When you were highlighting and aligning things, like centering them and aligning them to the right, how did you select multiple different icons? Did you have to hold shift for it?
Yes, so you can either hold shift or command or control on your computer. So command, you can select, and control. So shift would generally select multiple items in a row. So if I do that, this, yep. So just holding shift and clicking each object is how I was able to select multiple objects.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right. So if you have a slide that you, for the most part, that you like and you just want to edit some different information in it, you can real easily just right click on it from the sidebar here. Make sure you have your orange square around the slide that you want, and then you can duplicate slide, or you can do Shift Control D for your keyboard command, and that will duplicate that slide. So you can see we have two slides here that are exactly the same. And also to delete it, you can just right click, delete. All right. So if you want to kind of break your PowerPoint up a little bit as you're going through your presentation, and you want things to be a little different versus the standard next slide. Oh, I already put the transitions in this one. I forgot to take them off. So you can see I have some transitions on here. This is how it should normally look, just one to the next. Right. But in here, you can see I put transition of push on it. Which creates that effect of it being one slide being pushed out of the way for the next. So if we take that off, you can see it just cuts to it, right? Versus that one that has the transition. With transitions, you don't want to overdo it. You want to keep things simple and clean. If there's too many transitions that are too different from each other, it'll be kind of jarring for your audience. So just keep that in mind. Any questions on transitions so far? If you want to change the time on your transition, you can do so right here. So like this one right now this one. Okay. So this one right now, it's at 1 second. So if we wanted to change that time, let's say 2 seconds. So let's go back here and play that. And then you can see how much longer it takes to transition in. Or if you wanted it to go faster. Right? Does that all make sense so far? You can also add sounds. So if you wanted to make a noise as it does transition, you can do so. They have some built-in sounds, or you can put in your own. I recommend not doing that. All right. And then, so kind of getting back into our layers and then getting into animation a little bit. In animations, so over here we have so as we have our selection pane, we can open our animation pane and we can see the animations that we have going on. This is a fairly simple animation compared to this one that we have going on, which has quite a bit. You can see in our selection pane that we have these multiple groups here that are creating our animation. So if we turn off one group, you can see as they disappear, it reveals the group below it. So if we wanted to look at that, or so we have this here, we can see it this way. We can also visually look at it this way, so we can see all the different pieces that we have out. So we have this background image by itself, then all the text that goes over top of that, and then these other little pieces that have these bits of information. So that animation by itself looks something like this. Right? And then in our animation palette, you can see that we have all those different pieces. Everything is numbered as it goes through. So let me show you on this one, makes it a little bit easier to read. So I'm gonna go ahead and hide this oval. This one is number 5. It's hard to tell that it's attached to it, but that 5 is related to this. You'll see that 5 disappear when that oval disappears, right? So those are all numbered. So we have 1, which is the ITM repository, 2, which is a group, which is this group here. Actually, it's this group here. And you have 3, which is this group here. And then 4, which is this group. You can see the number 4, 3, 2, 1, right? So it says on the command bars to on mouse, or excuse me, on spacebar, add in the next group. And so each time you click the spacebar, another group will pop in until the animation is complete. So in this case, we saw this one previously, but I'll show you again now that you've seen it. So this is the first part of the slide that we see. It's blank. As soon as you hit the spacebar, 1 pops in, then 2, 3, 4, and then 5. If you are working with your deck and you want to change the order of something, you can easily do so, like selecting your slide in the sidebar and then just dragging it down, and that changes your order. If you have something that you want to change the color of, like say this little text or this box, you have this, once you have it selected, you can edit it from your format, shape, which is your fill, solid fill, and there's your color choice. So you can change it there. Or you can also edit it from here. And in this instance, you can see that it has a border color. So if you want to change the border color too, you're gonna have to scroll down the line and select that color and change that as well so that they matched. All right.
Hey, Marshall, so like, how did you duplicate all those shapes to be the same?
So there's a variety of ways of doing that. So this one was actually pre-built, so I took it from something else, and I just had to modify the colors. But if I were building this from scratch, let's break one of these down here, and I can show you the different elements that create this. So we have one here that's this shape. We have this, it's this shape, but it's also the text box. And then we have this graphic element. So in this case, this would be a shape that we would create, right? So we go shapes, we want rounded corners, and we draw out our box the way we want it. And we set our fill color to be our gray. And then we set our line color to be our blue. And then you can draw a text box. And do a solid fill with a color. And words. And then you can set your font color. So something like that. And then you can do a picture in place, or paste a picture. So let's go with that. And then we have our calendar. So when I grab that corner, I also hold the shift key, and that constrains proportion. That's how you create something like that.
Okay, so would you have to do that every time you need to make one of those boxes, or is there a way you can duplicate it?
So
You
then,
can copy and duplicate,
yep.
yes.
So then after you created one,
Okay.
you can do that. You can hold the Option key, or excuse me, the Alt key, and you can just drag it, and that would duplicate it. Once you have made this and you want to keep the groups together and make sure that you get them aligned, what you can do is you can either drag and select, or you just select all your pieces, and then you right click on it and you say group. And so you have the option to group. Once it's a group, we'll select this one too, and group that one. And now see how it has the boxes a lot larger surrounding it. Now, if I need to get these two in alignment with each other, it's not gonna, so if I didn't do that, let me show you what happens. Do that, and we select this, and we go to alignment, we want them all to be top aligned, right? We go here, align top. It takes all those pieces and moves them all to the top, breaks our structure. So if we don't want to break our structure, then we group our individual pieces. Group, and then we can select our two different elements here, and now we can say align, and then it just aligns the top and the top here. That way our structure isn't broken. Yeah?
Cool.
Yeah, so if you have a page that you like the content on it, the way you have everything laid out, and you want to just modify some different things inside of it, like for instance, this one, you say you have a different scorecard and you're only changing a few pieces of text. So go through here, you can duplicate the slide and say, okay, so here's my original, here's my secondary. And then you can say, know what you own. And you can go in here and you can change your numbers. You can change your text in here as you need to. And this is a table in here, so these are different columns. You can modify that as you need as well. And then now you can see you have two different slides that look very similar, and pieces that need to be in the same place that shouldn't jump don't. So like your little score item here. So if I had tried to reconstruct that and try to align it in the same spot, I probably wouldn't be able to do it by hand. And so then in that case, you'd see, for example, see how that jumps a little bit from one to the next. So we try to prevent that from happening, so that way it doesn't jar the viewer's attention too much. So, and then also in the instance that you have an image here, I think we may have done this, I'll show you this again. So if you have an image, you just want to swap it out, you can right click on the image, say change image, pick your image and say insert. And that will put it in there in roughly the same spot, at roughly the same size, versus the other option of going in here, picture, from file, cloud, insert, and that will bring in at its larger size, and then you have to size it down, and you're not quite sure if you get it in the right spot, same size, or what have you. You know. All right. So do you guys have any questions on this so far? Nope. Okay. So when you're making your presentation, if you want some notes for yourself while giving the presentation, you can put that down here in your notes, down here in this bottom part. So where it says add note, and you can say, you know, talk about point 1 and 2, right? And then you know you need to talk about point 1 and 2. Now, if you're sending this to me or to somebody else in your team that you need to make some modifications or some changes or make them aware of something, you can do that by comments. So you can select a comment down here, tap, click on that, and then tap in here. Tap new and say, please change sidebar graphic to a person instead of a.
This is the area that you guys will be making comments to marketing when you slide these over to us next quarter. Every one of you are going to make a presentation on the BDR team. You're going to be required as part of your task to put together a PowerPoint presentation, present it to the rest of the team. So this is where you'll make your comments when you bring it, send it over to the marketing side, and then marketing will pay attention to your comments and make the modifications accordingly.
Yep. So if you have some ideas for animations, but you're not quite sure how to do it, that's fine. You can just put some comments in there and tell us what you want. If they're not too overly complicated and they're within our time frame, then we can get those done for you. If you send it to us at the last minute, chances are we're not going to put any animations at it at all. We'll just make it simple. But if you give us enough lead time, we can always add some more fancy for you, you know. So this is just an overall general sort of rundown there's definitely a lot more to learn and know, and I can show you other things if you need to. But let's go ahead and just kind of start wrapping up here and answer any questions, or if you guys want to kind of mess around with it a little bit and then ask me some questions while we're here, then we can do that as well.
One of the things I want to point out that I don't think you showed them is if you go into format, folks, let's say that you have a PowerPoint and the font is not consistent throughout. And this happens on it happens quite a bit, more than we want it to. If you go to format and you change the font under format, it will automatically change the font for the entire PowerPoint presentation through and through. The same thing applies when you're changing the slides, because you can do widescreen slides there, or you can do standard slides. So be in tune with where you're going to be presenting this at and what type of slides that you need, what slide size you need. A lot of people don't think about that, and they throw these together and then they go to make a presentation and it just doesn't fit the screen that they're actually using. So formatting is very important. Pay attention to that area.
General rule of thumb, most screens these days are 16:9 format, or at least they're accommodating to that. And if you're presenting on TVs or whatever at any sort of presentation center, generally those are 16:9 format as well. So your size is 1920 by 1080 or thereabouts, or you can do a larger version of that and it'll still scale down.
If you start out with a particular font size in your title area on your slides, you need to maintain that font size throughout your presentation. You need to be consistent. The same applies for your content in the body situations. You need to be consistent in everything you do. Everything must match up. Everything must be centered or be proportionate on each and every slide. Attention to detail on these things are very, very important. It's just all part of being professional, right? And we want to try and be as professional as possible. Granted, the majority of these presentations are going to be reviewed by marketing, and we want all of them to come through marketing. But let's say you're doing something that has nothing to do with Flycast or whatever. Just keep in mind that attention to detail is very important on these.
Yeah, for the most part, if you guys have any issues with it, we'll take care of it for you. We just need you to get the basic content on the slides, and then we'll hammer it out for you and gussy it up, so to speak. So as long as you have time for us to get it to us and before your presentation, then we can doctor it up, make it look consistent and within the brand guidelines. If you have to do it in the last minute rush, make sure that you're paying attention to every single detail and make sure that everything is consistent with itself. So,
and for those of you that aren't aware of it, as you should be aware, if you go into SharePoint in our marketing depository there, you will find a style guide or the beginnings of a style guide for Flycast partners. It's something that's been worked on now for the last year and is continuing to grow. So we do have standards here at Flycast partners, and I ask that we maintain and adhere to those standards all across all the different platforms that we're using. You'll notice that we're in the process, you'll see here shortly, Brian Kerr and their team over there, they're redoing the new portal we're going to have for the intranet on Avante, and you'll notice that even that is adhering to our style guide. So it's very important that you stick to the style guide. Secondly, I want everything to come through marketing before it's released to the public or utilized in a public facing. Any other questions, concerns?
Certain way that we're supposed to make the request to you guys? Is it just email? Is there a distro list? How are we supposed to do that the right way?
As of right now, all of that will come through me. Just send it through me, and then I'll task it out accordingly. Whether that is to actually task it out or do it myself, it just depends on what's going on at the time. Hopefully, in the near future, I've talked to Brian Kerr about this in our new system. Hopefully, they're going to be able to build out a ticketing process for us so I can track everything we're doing in marketing. I want to be able to track this. So hopefully in the very near future, you'll be able to go to our new intranet and submit a ticket for whatever project it is you want us to do. And it'll automatically generate and send to us, and then we'll take it from there.
I got a tool I can sell you for that.
We already bought it. Sorry, you're a little late.
Story of my life.
Any other questions or concerns? Was this helpful for everyone, or did anybody learn anything from this?
Yeah, it was good.
It's good.
Yeah, if you guys need more information, feel free to stop by. If you have questions, feel free to either stop by my office or shoot me an email.